Pursuant to order, I now call Senator Seselja to make his first speech and ask honourable senators that the usual courtesies be extended to him.
Thank you, Mr President. I'm not the first person with a Croatian heritage to be elected to this place, but I believe I may be the first person who has two parents born in Croatia to be elected to the Australian Parliament. And it's to my parents, Louis and Kate, that I send my first and deepest thanks. I will be forever grateful to my parents for all the sacrifices they made, the opportunities they created and the support they provided. My parents left their native Croatia in search of freedom and a better life for our family. They found those things here in Canberra. My father, Louis, worked a number of jobs before going to night school to study photography. He then worked in the National Library's photographic section, becoming an accomplished local photographer who helped chronicle the life of our region and our nation. Mum looked after the kids and did an amazing job in tough circumstances. Raising 6 kids on one modest income wasn't easy, but it gave me the guiding principles and support that have led me to this place. They gave me an appreciation of the value of hard work, perseverance and the art which many large families know about, getting a lot from a little. We didn't have a lot, but we didn't waste a lot either. My parents gave me love, support and a deep sense of right and wrong. Most of all, they gave me opportunity. They gave me the opportunity to receive a good education at St Thomas the Apostle in Canberra, Padua Catholic High School in Waniassa and St Peter's Catholic College in Isabella Plains. I also had the opportunity and privilege of studying at the Australian National University and University of Canberra, and I'm glad to see the Vice-Chancellor of UC, Stephen Parker, with us today, who I believe has done so much to turn around the fortunes of the University of Canberra. I had the opportunity to work in the Australian Public Service and later the opportunity to serve my community in the ACT Legislative Assembly. Now, Mr President, the opportunities given to me by my parents all those years ago have led me here to the highest parliament in the land. I now take this opportunity from the floor of the Senate of the Commonwealth of Australia to say thank you to Mum and Dad. You are both my heroes. My parents also taught me manners, Mr President, so I'd like to continue with some of other thank yous before talking about other matters. I'd like to thank the people of Canberra, first for endorsing me to serve for nearly 9 years in the Legislative Assembly, and now for the significant additional privilege to serve in the Australian Senate. It's an amazing honour. I pay tribute to those who have gone before me in this role: John Knight, Margaret Reid and Gary Humphries. All made significant contributions in this place and in service of the people of the ACT and the nation. I'd like to thank the men and women of the ACT division of the Liberal Party for giving me the honour to represent the party, and to so many who worked so hard for my campaign. Election successes are only possible because of the hard work of thousands of volunteers, and here in Canberra we have some of the best. My party gave me the honour of leading it in the ACT for more than 5 years and at 2 elections. I thank them for that. During those 5 years, hard work, discipline and unity of purpose in the parliamentary party was central to us achieving a record number of seats for the Liberal Party in the ACT. I believe that these principles are as true in large parliaments as they are in Australia's smallest parliament. I'd like to congratulate Tony Abbott on his election as Prime Minister. Changes of government are rare in federal politics, and the fact that it has happened just 6 years after the coalition lost office, I think, is testimony to the amazing leadership that Tony Abbott has displayed over the past 4 years. Might I also congratulate Senator Erica Betts on becoming Leader of the Government in the Senate, a worthy honour for a great servant of the Liberal Party, Tasmania and our nation. I'd like to recognise the Croatian Australian community, of which I remain a very proud part. Mr President, I'm pleased we have with us here in the gallery today the new Croatian Ambassador, Dr Damir Kušin, as well as the Consul General, Mirjana Piskolic. Now, a former member of this place, Natasha Stot-Despoja, her Croatian heritage is well known, and I believe we have with us here today Mario Despoja in the gallery. Now, I first met Mario whilst door knocking during the 2004 ACT election campaign, and I knocked on his door in Farrer, and he excitedly told me to wait there while he ran to get a photo album which showed a picture of him at my parents' wedding back in 1971, and he was very, very excited, obviously very proud of his daughter, and I think I pay tribute to Mario. I later found out that he had in fact established a Croatian embassy in the late 1970s during a time when the Croatian people were struggling for independence. So I acknowledge his work. Mr President, as a son of immigrants fleeing oppression, I'd like to speak about our multicultural nation. People from many nations have made great contributions to Australia. We are all the richer for it. But it also must be said that it is a mark of what a great nation we live in, what a big-hearted nation, that Australia has opened itself to immigrants from all over the world and allowed them to make their homes here. I reject the view that Australia should not continue to grow. Does anyone really believe that Australia is not a vastly more prosperous nation now, with 23 million people, than it was when it had 5 or 10 million people? I believe that growing our population in a steady manner is the key to our prosperity. In order to do this, we need a well-managed immigration program and sensible and strategic infrastructure investment. We are and should remain a nation built on diverse cultures, united by common values. Among those values are the protection of the great freedoms: freedom of speech, enterprise and religion. Mr President, for me and my family, this issue is personal. One of the reasons my family left Croatia was because freedom of speech and religion in particular were curtailed under a harsh communist regime. My uncle Stipan spent several years in a Yugoslav prison for daring to challenge the communist regime and assert his rights to speak freely and freely practice his religion. I take the opportunity to congratulate the Attorney-General, Senator Brandis, for placing these great freedoms at the centre of government policy and for successfully leading the charge against the previous government's proposed media laws. These freedoms are truly central to who we are as a nation, and constant vigilance is required to protect them. Mr President, I reiterate my personal commitment to the protection and support for the family as the basis of prosperity in society and stability in the home. I believe the institution of marriage between a man and a woman is a special one, deserving special recognition and protection. Many people who voted for the Liberal Party did so on the basis that this is our long-held position. Mr President, as a proud Canberran, Tuggeranong born and bred, I have several things to say about Canberra. First, I am and will remain a staunch defender of my hometown, no matter what other matters are before us, and there are very good reasons for doing so. Canberra is a great city. Its people are doing great work for and on behalf of our country, and it makes a contribution to our nation as substantial as any other city in the country. Canberra bashing diminishes those who engage in it and is an attack on our nation. All Australians should be encouraged to be proud of their national capital, not just because of what the city is, but also because of what it represents. Not just this building, the meeting place of the nation, but in the suburbs, which are the home to hundreds of thousands of ordinary Australians. While most Canberrans are not politicians, contrary to popular belief, many do contribute to our nation through the public service, a privilege which I enjoyed prior to going into politics, as did my father and many members of my family. This contribution should be recognised and honoured. As the coalition government goes through the difficult task of fixing the budget mess it has inherited, I urge my colleagues to treat public servants with respect, to give as much clarity and certainty as possible, and to honour the promise to ensure reductions in public service numbers are achieved through natural attrition. Mr President, the National Capital Authority plays an important role in protecting the national capital character of Canberra. However, the size of its remit and its limited resources makes it difficult for the authority to properly perform this role. The time has come for the NCA to be allowed to focus on its core role of protecting and promoting the national capital and allowing the ACT government to get on with the other aspects of planning Canberra. I'm putting some suggestions on how this can be achieved to Minister Jamie Briggs, which would more clearly delineate the roles of the NCA and the ACT government. Mr President, I look forward to working with the ACT government to bring about positive changes in how the responsibilities of the NCA and the ACT government interact. In Canberra, we also have a vibrant private sector, which looks to government to spend money wisely, cut red tape and over-regulation in order for it to prosper. As well as all of the trades and first-class retail, hospitality and professional sectors, Canberra has growing and vibrant ICT, tourism, education, property and defence industry sectors with great future potential. Much of this private sector activity provides services to or acts in partnership with the federal government. Innovative thinking on the part of the federal government has the potential to benefit both government and these parts of the private sector. One simple step to help facilitate this would be to re-establish the Capital Region Ministerial Business Roundtable, and I commend that suggestion. Canberra has an active sporting, artistic and cultural sector. We are home to great national sporting teams, such as the Brumbies, Raiders, Capitals and Cavalry, even occasionally the GWS. We've produced great Australian sports stars such as Lauren Jackson, Ricky Stewart, Ned Zellich, Caroline Buchanan, George Gregan and Joe Roth, to name but a few. And I acknowledge Joe Roth is here with us today. We will soon welcome back one of those great Canberra sports stars in Glenn Lazarus when he comes to this place. Might I cheekily suggest we've already welcomed back another sports star who has a strong connection to Canberra in Nova Peris. And can I take this opportunity to congratulate you, Senator Peris, on your election. And I know that it's not just a significant thing for the Indigenous community in our nation, but it's a significant thing for our nation as a whole. So congratulations. Mr President, Canberra's cultural sector is vibrant and growing, not only thanks to national institutions such as the National Gallery, but through local initiatives such as the Multicultural Festival, Canberra International Film Festival and the Canberra Theatre Precinct. Canberra has also produced renowned authors such as Alan Gould and A.D. Hope. And I'd like to note that in 2 weeks' time the Canberra International Film Festival is sponsoring the Virgin Ball with legendary film producer Harvey Weinstein in the Great Hall of Parliament. So I'll give it that plug here. Our academic institutions are world-class. The ANU lays claim to 6 Nobel Prize winners in its history, including most recently Brian Schmidt of Mount Stromlo Observatory. And as we celebrate Canberra's centenary this year, Mr President, we celebrate the great contribution these and many more like them have made to Australian life. But as we move into Canberra's next century, there's still more to do, and those in this place who missed the centenary should know that there was a lot more to it than the Skyway, which did seem to get most of the attention. A particular project the business community in Canberra is very eager to see is the Australia Forum, a national meeting place and convention centre for the national capital. This can only be achieved through partnership between the federal and ACT governments. I commend this project to the government. I also commend my former colleague in the Assembly, Brendan Smith, for his tireless advocacy of this project. I believe its time has come. The Australia Forum would be a piece of national infrastructure befitting the nation's capital. Such an investment would build on the great tradition of Liberal governments in building Canberra. This is most true of the government of Sir Robert Menzies, but it was also true of the Howard government. It shouldn't be forgotten that the Howard government built the National Museum, National Portrait Gallery, the Joint Defence Headquarters, Anzac Hall at the War Memorial, the Centre for Christianity and Culture, Commonwealth Place and Reconciliation Place, and started the new ASIO headquarters, among other achievements. Another area of policy where there is plenty of room for improvement is in our building industry. Mr President, there is still far too much union intimidation of small, medium and even large builders. I commend the policy of re-establishing the Building and Construction Commission, and I would urge the Minister to ensure that it is properly resourced and supported to bring back the rule of law to building sites. This reform, along with reducing some of the green and red tape as it applies to the building industry, in partnership with more sensible land use policies from state and territory governments, will help to bring the cost of infrastructure, commercial buildings and homes down. This is a worthy goal for the coalition government to work hard towards. Another critical area to improving productivity is workplace relations more generally. While I commend the government for its steady and cautious approach to workplace reform, it's time we again had the conversation about workplace reform without simplistic claims of resurrecting work choices being bandied about. Now, I'm often hearing from constituents about the growing number of restaurants and bars and cafes which are closed on a Sunday in Canberra. I believe this is a nationwide issue, and we as a nation need to ask ourselves the question: is it pro-worker for thousands of restaurants, bars and cafes to be routinely shutting down on Sundays due to prohibitively high penalty rates? When this occurs, no one wins. Not the small business owner, who has the viability of their business affected, not the consumer, who has the choice restricted, and certainly not the worker, denied the opportunity to work their desired number of hours. Mr President, I'd like to put on record today my rejection of the nanny state. I think I speak for many Australians when I say that government has gone too far in regulating and instructing us to within an inch of our lives. Now, those of us who live in the ACT, and there are many in the gallery, are particularly familiar with the nanny state. We've seen in recent years the government has declared war on the great scourges of plastic bags, fireworks, puppies sold in pet stores, and most recently the humble community sausage sizzle. I trust, Mr President, that the coalition government will stand for freedom not just in the big things, but also in working against the many small areas of government intrusion, which combine to make life a little less pleasant, a little less free. The Coalition's policy to devote days in Parliament and getting rid of regulations is therefore very welcome. Coalition's paid parental leave scheme has copped some criticism, particularly from our political opponents. However, Mr President, let me make this point. Here in Canberra, around 50% of the workforce is in the public sector. They currently have access to a taxpayer-funded wage replacement paid parental leave scheme. This is bipartisan policy. The vast bulk of workers in the private sector, and almost universally in small business, do not have access to such a scheme. The government's paid parental leave scheme is therefore a scheme which is not just pro-working woman, but also pro-small business, and that is particularly true here in Canberra, where small business struggles to compete with government. Mr President, let me also make this point. Given the paid parental leave scheme is a government-funded scheme for people in paid work who have children, I believe it is important that those women who have children but are not in the workforce are also properly supported by the government. Before concluding, Mr President, I'd like to thank all in the gallery who have come to support me. There are too many to mention here, but each of you are here because you have played some role in my journey or in promoting the Liberal cause, and I thank you for that. Now, I've had a little bit to say about family today, but I also can reveal to the Senate that, in fact, I do have a member of my extended family, so to speak, in this place. And I don't believe he's actually in the chamber at the moment, but he reminded me of it when I was walking past Senator Conroy and Aussies today, and he yelled out, "In-law, in-law." And in fact, there is actually recently my wife's sister did actually marry Stephen Conroy's little brother, so he and I are related. And can I say, but obviously it wasn't enough for him to come down and watch my speech. So it's not a particularly close relationship at this stage. I assure you, Senator Abetz. But you know what they say: blood is thicker than water. Mr President, there are some who have played a particularly important role in my political journey. Steve Doyle, Ian Hagan and Theo Faulkner have formed an amazing and formidable political team. To the campaign manager, Bridget Morton, my wonderful staff, Josh Baker, Emily Davis and Sam Mullins, to members of the ACT Assembly, particularly Jeremy Hanson and Alistair Coe, to staff who gave up their own time to assist, thank you. To those who have supported me in my personal journey, particularly John and Jan Kennedy, Bob O'Hare, Adam and Kushla Morris, Jonathan and Karen Doyle, Dave and Katie Ellis and Nick Medway. And finally, and most importantly, to my family, to Louis and Kate, who did such an amazing job raising 6 kids in difficult circumstances, I say thank you. To my sisters, Branka, Katerina and Lydia, to my brothers, Nick and Zvonimir, I love you very, very much. To our children, Michael, Tommy, William, Olivia and Grace. We're doing our bit for a big Australia, but know that I love you, that I always want the best for you, and we'll fight in this place to ensure Australia remains a wonderful place to live and prosper and raise a family. You're always in my thoughts and my prayers, even when I'm not with you as much as I would like to be. Lastly, and definitely most importantly, to my beautiful wife, Ros. Ros, you are amazing and I love you, and you should never ever let me forget that. Mr President, I'm truly honoured to stand in this place. I'm humbled by those who have trusted me to do so, and I will never forget the reasons why they have chosen me to be here. Prime Minister Tony Abbott said in his maiden speech that there is no limit to what Australia can achieve. I agree with that statement. We've already achieved so much. We've achieved one of the most peaceful and prosperous nations on earth. This hasn't occurred by accident. It's come through the hard work and initiative of our people, the sacrifice of our servicemen and women, and the commitment to democracy and freedom, guided largely by good government. It's come through treating all with respect, supporting family, valuing and protecting human life, and protecting those in need. Now, in striving to uphold these values, I'll always work to protect and represent my constituents, as it is they who I'm ultimately answerable to. They are why I'm here. Much as I'm here to tackle the great debates of the day, I will do so with the people of Canberra foremost in my mind. Mr President, I'm here as a local and as a Liberal to ensure Canberrans always have a voice not just for those who are the great and mighty, ministers or ambassadors, not just the business leaders and community elders. It's about giving a voice to people just like me, a son of immigrant parents from the suburbs of Tuggeranong. I'm here for those people, and while I'm here, I'll work to ensure they have a voice in this great parliament. Thank you.